we got ourselves an outer sill and, just in case, an inner sill. Still Wizard Fabrications, Grant Hanna, he's the guy. We'll be replacing them. And also, let me show you something for the wing. T4 wing, offside. Now, call me crazy, but I don't know what difference there is, if much, between an early T4 wing and a later one. Other than the grills are missing for the air intake. But I shall try and modify this into a bolt-on wing, not a weld-on. Have a look at the differences. So, compared to our original wing, we have this part here, which is missing off here. Now, I should be able to drill out those spot welds, take this off, and mount it to this. On this back edge, we have 2 holes for bolts. On this, the return's actually missing there. So there might be a bit of jiggery pokery to make that work, but I'm sure we can. On top of the wing here, we've got 3 holes for 3 more bolts. With the weld on one, we're missing the holes. So we should be able to just marry those up, drill them out, and that'll work. So this is 3 times cheaper than this. I should be able to make this work for our T4 using bits off this. And for 3 times cheaper, it's worth giving it a go. Okay, so I've offered up the wing. It's in situ. We're pretty good down the bottom here. There's no bolts in it, it's just hanging there at the moment. But we have a large gap at the back here, and I think it's being caused by this point here. So I think I need to chop maybe 5mm or so off this top edge so the wing can go backwards a bit more. It's almost there, just not quite. I've also, if we can see here, I've got the inside lip of this wing fouling on the bolts for the door hinge, so that needs to have a little cut out to allow it to go back more as well. But otherwise, it's not too bad. I think they're the only 2 mods I need to make to get this to fit in position where I can start then making holes for the top of the wing there, holes for the inside, and then this piece under here, get that added in from the other wing. So let's get some bits and pieces cut. So I've scored here where I want to cut, so I want to take this part out. That will get the wing further back, and I've also marked on the back here, so this will clear those bolts for the door hinge. So to remove this part here from this wing, I've got 5 spot welds to take out, and then that should be able to give me what I need to get this part removed. Let's give it a go. So for me, the best thing I can think of is for me to get this part back on here that we've taken off the old wing, and then when I put the new wing on, at least I know it's going to be exactly where it needs to be for this to work. What I will then do is, instead of welding this, I'm obviously going to treat it because we've got some bits and pieces, but when I put this back on, I can then use some strong adhesive. In this case it will be CT1, and I will glue this to the new wing, and it definitely won't come off. It is super strong, so I'm not concerned with that. But yeah, that's what we're going to do here. So now I'm going to mark and cut some reliefs to allow the bolts to sit to the inner wing. Okay, I'm pretty happy with how this is lining up now. We've got a good line through here. So what I'll do now is mark the locations of the holes, and I'll drill 8mm holes. On the original ones they're kind of elongated, but I'll do 8mm, and hopefully that gives me enough adjustment with the bolts to be able to shift it around where I need it. But yeah, so there's a little bit of modification that's needed for these wings, these weld-on wings. I've got these from Just Campers. I'll leave a link in the description below. But yeah, there's a bit of modification that it needs doing, some cutting of metal and bits and pieces. But for a wing that costs 3 times cheaper than a bolt-on one, with a couple of hours of working out mods and bits, you get a wing to go back on your T4 for fairly cheap. Next up is measuring the holes that go to the door shut. Okay, so I've measured from the bottom here up to the centre of the hole, which is 43mm, that's for both. I've also measured from this point here on the right, in 170mm and in 370mm. So I'll transfer that to this now, point 170, point 370, and hopefully I'll be somewhere near the holes I need to be to get these drilled out and put in. Okay, so as you can see here, I've had to drill a second hole because I was a bit low, but that will pick that one up lovely. And down here, because this new wing is shallower, I've cut a slot. So I've cut a square slot out there, so when I push the wing in, I'll be able to pull the bolt into that, and that'll work. So now the wing's pretty much prepped, we need to start prepping it for paint. What I'm using is isopropyl alcohol to rub down the panel ready for paint. We can now add primer to the panel, both inside and out, and then move on to stone chipping the inside. Okay, that's the wing primered, stone chipped on the underside as well. Added protection. You can get the blue applied after a little rub down with some 400 grit, just to take any bits out of the paint, and then yeah, get this painted, get it on the van. Okay, time for paint. Number one, I'm not a painter. I have an idea, but what we're going to do is we're going to spray some blue on a wing. Let's go. So time to heat up the panel and heat up the can. This will help with the adhesion. A couple of light coats, then followed by a final heavy coat, and then we can start prepping to make it look distressed. Well then, that's now painted. It's far from perfect. I've actually got some drips, some spitting from the gun, which is a bit irritating. But we can now move on to lacquer, because this won't stay like this forever. We've got plans for the wing. I know this is going to look ridiculously mint against the rest of the van, but you know how it is. Let's go. So of course it'd be mad for me to paint it and then hit it with a sander and try and get this distressed look. So first of all, before lacquer, add in your distressed look and then apply lacquer. What I'm doing is touching in, fettling it a bit with some 400 grit sandpaper, and then hitting it with a DA in larger areas to bring out that sort of patina look. Now I know what you're all thinking. What the hell is this guy doing? But that's the look we're going to go with on the van. We're going to go for that distressed sort of semi-patina look. And the whole van will be like it all the way around. The bumpers will be sprayed up looking smart. The door mirrors will be sprayed up looking smart. Any plastics and rubber trims will all be looking smart, but the actual paintwork will have that distressed look. Let me know down below what you think. What I've also done is added some silver paint. I've allowed that to dry and then rubbed that down also to give the finished look. So again with the lacquer, a couple of light coats and then finishing up with a heavy one. I think there was 4 coats in total on this. Before I can even go anywhere, we've got to swap the battery. So I had a starting problem with the van. I thought it was the battery. After turning it over a few times, the battery died real quick. So it needs a replacement anyway. So it's off with the cabin filter, out with the clamp. I'm going to remove the battery, replace it. Okay, so that's the battery replaced. I had a problem starting it the other day and the battery died real quick. Now I'm not saying that that is the issue, but it's not going to help. Okay, battery swapped. Let's see if that's fixed it. That'll be a no. Okay, so that didn't work. New batteries, not fix the starting issue. The battery was knackered anyway. Good to get a new one in. I think it might be the ignition switch down here that's down by the barrel. I've got one coming, so we'll get that swapped. So the ignition switch lives on the back of this. There's a plug connector that comes in. We've got to remove these covers and then we can get to it. Okay, the ignition. We've got the housing for it and that's attached with a security bolt. So if you wanted to replace this, you've got to drill this out. It is an absolute mission to do. There is a knack to getting this ignition switch out. You've got to be a bit of a gymnast and you've got to have the right tool. So, if I remember rightly, centre of the screen, the little gold part there is a screw. That needs to come out for you to replace the ignition switch. It ain't gonna be fun, man. So first up, remove all the connectors surrounding the ignition barrel housing. Gives you better access. There's the screw, right up in there. That's got to come out, that one. Okay, this is what I've done to a screwdriver to get access to it. Check it out. Is that just not insane? Fun job. Got a new ignition switch. Let's go get it fitted. Okay, new battery installed. New ignition switch. Let's see what we get. It's not the ignition switch, although weirdly that was loose. Next stop, fuel system. We're going to replace the fuel filter and also check for bubbles in the fuel line. Okay, so as you saw there, I've actually got air in the fuel line here. I'm actually really glad it's not the fuel stop solenoid which lives below this immobiliser, because this would have to be smashed off and busted into pieces, removed, and then a feed direct to the solenoid. But when I tested, I could feel the click by putting my hand on here. That means that the solenoid's opening. So we have fuel that's running up into here. We have air in the system. You can even see we need to get the air out of the system. So I'm thinking it's possibly a problem with the fuel filter. It's seen better days. I'm going to get it swapped and start working my way backwards, because if we've got air in the system up to here, then we're not going to get a fire. One Febby fuel filter, that's the number. That's going to live down in there replacing that. These can be a bit of a pain to get out, but we'll get it out, don't worry. So this fuel filter was definitely past its best. I'm not entirely sure how long it had been in there. No room to film really. So this comes out from the middle. One out that way, one out that way. And that leaves fuel filter free. Okay, with the new filter, you want to make sure the bottom here is done up nice and tight. I'm also going to preload it. I've just got some car lube fuel treatment here for diesel. I'm going to load it into here, and then that will soak through the filter, and when it comes to prime, when we turn the ignition on for the pumps, we should be able to get a quicker start. Plus, of course, this will help as well. So we're going to load this up now. Okie dokie. So the fuel filter's back in. The R-clip there, this is on a Febby filter, right? And that is the factory valve there that or fitting that lives inside the filter, and that R-clip secures it. Now on the Febby filter, I've just found out this is a known issue. You can't compress that fitting down far enough to get the R-clip in. And upon reading on Just T4's and T4ever Facebook pages, I've found out that you get a little black O-ring that is on the filter itself when you buy it, and if you remove that, this fitting will drop down far enough to be able to get the R-clip in. Now this is on the Febby Bilstein filters, and it's apparently a known problem. I wasn't aware of this, so what I will be doing is I will be replacing that with a Bosch filter. But just a heads up, if you've got a Febby filter and you're going to fit it, remove this black ring, this black rubber ring that lives on the filter itself. Remove that, and then you should be able to drop that fitting in far enough to get the R-clip in. I will be, as I say, replacing that one with a Bosch unit, which apparently doesn't have this issue. Okay, only one thing to do. Let's try it. This is crunch time. Fingers crossed, this has resolved the issue. Ignition on, the warning light there, or the warning sound is for the brake warning. So I do need to get that fixed at some point. But I'm going to crank onto the ignition a couple of times just to warm the glow plugs, wait for that call light to go out. And then we're going to send it. Expecting it not to fire straight away, but it's trying. Yes, come on. Back with a working van. We can get this wing swap now and get it in the workshop. Spoke too soon. Okay, so taking that O-ring off, this filter has actually caused a leak there. So I can't do any more until I've got a new filter. I'm going to get myself a Bosch filter. Get that sorted first. Also, I've got fuel leaking from the pump. I can't quite see where yet, but I'm going to have to get the tray off, get down there and have a look. But unfortunately that's for another day. It's Sunday, nowhere's open. Halfords might be actually. Maybe I can go to Halfords. Let's see. New fuel filter. Part number there. This is the replacement for the Febby unit. Fingers crossed this will work out for us, and then we can get looking at that diesel pump. Okay, so that's the Bosch unit now in. This fitting, absolutely perfect fit. So we will just see how we get on with that. So we've still got this air in the system issue. You can see there in that little video clip that there's a block of air. So when I'm cranking over, that air's not passing through the engine and clearing. So I've changed the filter's good. I haven't changed the plastic valve that goes into the filter or the rubber hoses. That might have to be an option. But what I wanted to is get down here and check out the fuel sender. Now it is known for the fuel senders to get a crack in the pipe, letting air into the system. So let's whip out the sender, tuck down here between the seats, and we'll have a look. Okay, so both seats out, trims for the handbrake, peel back your carpet or your mat, and it's stuck down with some sort of bitumen, and it has absolutely levered it. So yeah, be mindful of that if you're doing yours. Also, we've got a fair bit of damp here. My concern is that this mat's saturated, so that's something to think about. Maybe taking all this out at some point, getting under here, cleaning it all up, make sure it's all good. But anyway, that's for another day. This is our thing. Now we need to have a good clean up, because we do not want any crap going in that fuel tank. Okay, little clean up. So as you can see, we've got two pipes, both with arrows. One's a return, one's a feed, and the connection for the fuel gauge. There's also a breather there for the tank. So we need to whip this ring off, take these two off, take this connector off, whip this ring off, and then the sender should come up. We can take it out and inspect it. Fingers crossed I haven't got a hole. Or in fact, fingers crossed I have got a hole, otherwise I'm really struggling for why I've got air in my system. No lies, that's tough. Getting these off, bearing in mind they've probably still been on there since day one. Absolute mission. But now we've got these off, the connector's disconnected also, and we can get this ring off, get this sender out, have a quick little hoover up as well and make sure we've got any deposits there. Okay, so as a van converter, you can probably imagine I've done quite a few diesel heater fittings and what have you, and plumbed them into the original tanks. There is probably a special tool to get this ring off, because they are on tight. I don't have it, but what I've always used is a little bit of wood and just a mallet, and then I'll knock that round and it will release that ring for us. Right, let's have ourselves a little look. See this orange mark here? That's a split in the plastic. Now, I'm not 100% sure that's the reason, but that can't help. The rest of it's semi-submerged. I only have about a quarter of a tank in here, if that. So it could be an issue with something around here. So I thought as process of elimination, I'll work my way backwards, and I've now swapped the valve on top of the fuel filter. We're going to give it a go again and see what difference that makes, and then look at replacing the fuel sender if we have to. Make or break time. Are we 100 quid in on a fuel sender, or was it just the valve? Let's check it out. Ladies and gentlemen, I think we fixed it. It was the little control valve on top of the fuel filter. Happy days. So that could potentially be what the problem was all along. Just that little control valve. It's cost a few quid. It means I can send back, hopefully it means I can send back the £100 plus fuel sender, get the money back. We've got a problem still though, and it looks to be that the diesel pump's leaking. Now, a rebuild kit for a diesel pump's about 50 quid, second-hand pump's about 150, and a brand new one's about 400, I think. So we're going to have a go at repairing it. So that's the next job on the list. Okay, waiting for brake cleaner and bits and pieces to get all that oil and muck etc cleaned up on the engine bay there, so we can have a proper inspection for this diesel leak. So what we're going to do, crack on with the wing. We'll get that wing swapped out, show you what it looks like, see how it goes. Okay, new wing is bolted on. We've got a little bit more fettling to do, but at least it gives you the idea. I've got to say, I'm proper pleased with this look that we're going to go for, and that's going to be carried on through the rest of the van. So, step one done. Replacement wing prepped, put in. This of course will get lacquered properly along with the rest of the van when it comes time for it. But yeah, really pleased with that. So now we've got the brake cleaner, it's time to start cleaning up this engine. We want to be able to see exactly where this leak's coming from, so a good clean up will absolutely help. So now with all that old oil and grime out the way, I can get a proper look at the engine and that pump and see where our diesel leak's coming from. Okay, A little confused. Definitely had a diesel leak from that pump. Now I've cleaned it up, ran the engine up, no leak. Previously, the diesel was dripping on top of this alternator cover housing here, but now nothing. So I suppose the next step is to take it round the block. Okay, a bit of a strange one with that diesel pump. It's now not leaking. I took it on a 4-mile drive. No issues. Really pleased. But we've made some good progress all the same. We've got that wing swapped out and we've got the van running again. Thanks very much for watching. Do hit a thumbs up. Do subscribe down below and we'll catch you on the next one.